welcome to How to Baby Step Your Way to Become an Open Source Contributor. My name is Tulio, and today I'll do my best to guide you through the first few steps so that I can welcome you all into this amazing community. So you might be looking at the screen and thinking, well, I know that open source is great, I know that it will add to my valuable skills, but I really don't know how to give the first step. What should I do to start with? Don't worry, that's what I felt like 6 or 5 years ago as well. I had a few contributions here and there, very spare, very sparse, but all of a sudden I was contributing almost on the daily basis. And you might be thinking, whoa, that was a really sharp turn, right? You went from no contributions at all to contributions on a daily basis. That's more than baby steps. That's like running a course with obstacles. And I want to stress out, don't worry, everyone has their own pace, and every pace is acceptable. Don't let anyone tell you that you should be doing daily or almost daily contributions, that you should have a full contribution chart to be valuable. You're valuable doing any type of work and any amount of work. So, my name is Tulio, aka Tu Pascual. I'm a software engineering manager at Cadence Design Systems, where I lead a team and also projects and mostly work with C++ and Qt. But on my spare time, I'm also an open source contributor and a maintainer of two organizations, JDM and OpenRCT2, and a few projects here and there. So, what do you need to do, or actually, what do you need to know before you start contributing to open source? And the first thing that I always tell people is that you just need one thing, spare time. You just need some spare time. Maybe it is a few minutes, maybe it is a few hours to spare. Maybe you are on vacation and you want to do something because you're stuck at home. But all you need to really start on open source is some spare time, because if you have some spare time, you will be a helping hand, you will be helpful to someone. But not only spare time, I also like to call this just have fun. If you find something that amuses you, if you find something that excites you, that gets you thrilled, this will be a great experience and you will come back to it, you will become an avid contributor, and it will be just a blast. So find something that you can have fun on your spare time, related to open source, of course, and this will be working in no time. The second thing that I like to tell everyone that they need to come prepared is to be polite. If you're polite to someone, they will be polite back. Being respectful, being polite, and being welcoming is all that open source contributors want to be. And they mostly are, on my experience in open source. Everyone really wants to help you out, because who doesn't love getting additional hands to work on something they like? So if you're respectful, it will go a long way and it will just make the community better for everyone. Finally, you need some patience. My daily job is not to work on my open source projects, and so that is not the case for most of the people involved in the community. So if you open a pull request or you make some comment and the maintainers do not reply within a few days, within a few hours, or within even a few weeks, that might be all right. They might be going through a difficult time in their lives. They might be very busy now. They might be even traveling and without an access to the computer. So be patient. Try to grasp what the typical response time is like on that repository from the other PRs and the other comments, so that you can know when it seems okay to ping that person to ask for feedback. But try to not do it too soon, because that will be just overburdening the people in that repository, and they might be waiting for the weekend to work on it, or they might be waiting for some more peaceful time. So these are the things you need, but there are also things that you don't need to begin. And one of these is tons of experience. Back when I started, I always used to think like I will contribute with something that has to do with C++, because that's my knowledge. That will be the thing that I will be most valuable at, that I will be the most helpful. And the first project that I really started contributing was in Ruby. And I continued contributing to it up until this day. But when I started, I didn't know a single line of Ruby. I hadn't typed any single line of Ruby in my life, so I had no experience whatsoever with Ruby. And it was my first contribution, and it's fine. So it happened to me, it can always happen to you all. You don't need to be an expert, to be the grandmaster of this skill to start contributing, just find something you want to contribute to. You also don't need groundbreaking ideas. It's fine. I don't want to discourage anyone on starting their own project, their own thing. If you have some idea already, do it. Start it and create your project or repository. But if you don't put the pressure on yourself to think of something to start and then start, because that will just delay your experience. You will just never start because you never have an idea that you feel comfortable with starting, or you will just take some more years to think about something and start. And there are a lot of people out there with great ideas. There are a lot of projects that could use your help. And why not helping them? If open source was only composed of people trying to develop their own ideas on their own, there would be no open source, right? So try to find other people's ideas and contribute to them as well. Finally, don't overthink. If you're thinking too much about, oh, is this commit that I have phrased in a weird way? Did I write the text correctly or did I do the change, the code? Does it look all right? Does it look modern or readable? If you keep thinking about this, you'll never start. And most people are okay if you have a few mistakes. This is expected, especially if you're starting. So you can just test it, and if you think it is passable, I mean, if you think it has some value, submit it and let people give feedback, and you will be able to fix it according to their feedback. Maybe you even won't have to do anything. So don't overthink. Start as soon as you can, as soon as you find something. So these are a few of the things, three things that you need and don't need to begin. But without further ado, how do you actually start on the open source community? Um, my typical take is to take notes of everything. This is a picture of my desk. I take notes of everything that I want to follow up eventually, be it an idea that I just had, be it something that someone else that I talked to discussed to me, and it seems like something useful. I just take notes of everything. But because we are talking about open source, and most of the open source today resides within GitHub, just use GitHub's feature, which is stars. You can star every repository that you think will be useful to use someday, maybe because you want to code in it, maybe because you want to use it, whatever the reason you have. And the GitHub stars act just like bookmarks on your web browser. They will just build a collection of things that you once click to save for later. And when you have the time and you want to browse through this collection and pick another thing to start with, it will just be there for you. So use GitHub stars. The second tip is find something that you already use, that you already enjoy, and try to improve it, try to build upon it. Because if you have some software that you already use on a daily basis and you try to contribute back to it because it's an open source software, you will not only be helping other people, but you will also be helping yourself. The feeling of fixing some bug that you always face and then seeing the result of it because it was something that you were seeing almost on a daily basis or maybe frequently is great. The feeling of implementing a feature that you have always dreamed of on this particular thing that you always use is also a great feeling. So it acts as an additional motivation to work on things that you already kind of need. So going into how to contribute, which is what I think most of the people are after in this talk. There are different types of contributions. I've divided them into low, medium, and high effort contributions. And this might change depending on the repository, but I think this classification that I made, this categorization, will be the generic categorization for most repositories. And the first of these low effort contributions that you can make is verifying issues. Most of the repositories, even small ones, they have a backlog of issues. And sometimes this backlog can be quite large. They can be tens of issues or hundreds of issues, and the maintainers themselves typically don't do some house cleaning or housekeeping and clean those issues because they are tending to actually fixing some other issues or implementing new features. So if you go over the issues there, trying to reproduce the bugs that have been reported or trying to see if a feature still makes sense or if it hasn't been already implemented, and you find out that these have been implemented or fixed and etc. and comment, This is a great help for maintainers. Maybe that issue is too old and they never went back to it. Maybe that issue is new but duplicates an old issue. If you find something that does not seem applicable anymore and tell them, like I did here, I think this was fixed and it can be closed. The typical response you get is, yeah, it seems like you're right, thanks, and they will close it. And who doesn't love diminishing the backlog? I mean, who doesn't love closing things that have already been fixed? That's great for them. The second low effort contribution that you can do is just spreading the word. I just told you about stars. When you star things, things will appear more often in the Explore tab of other people's GitHubs. And even not star, even just sending a message on WhatsApp or tweeting about it, because the open source community is always about, or is also about building a network and expanding this network. If you make this repository reach more people, it is more likely that one of the people that you reach will think about using this thing or think about contributing back to it. So you're already helping the maintainers there. Going into the medium effort contributions, I told you about verifying issues, but you can also report issues. And when you report issues, it's very important that you follow the template that they have there and kind of do a basic search first to see that you're not opening something that is a duplicate, because otherwise we go into the first type of contributions, which is verifying issues. But also, when you open something and report something, it is very important for the maintainers for two reasons. The first is you took the time and effort to report something that you're seeing. And this is great because when you're detailed, they can reproduce it and they can evaluate it a lot better than when you just write, oh, the program crashed. But the second thing, which most of the people don't think about, is that when you come to the repository and open an issue, you're telling, hey, I use this thing you've built and I care about it. And for some of the people, this might be a huge motivation because maybe they built this on their own for their personal use, and up until that moment, they never knew that someone else was using, and all of a sudden they do. So when you report issues, you're also giving valuable feedback to them that the thing they are building is great. You can also update the wiki and documentation. And this is a great thing to do because you can do it directly from your web browser. You don't need to set up IDEs, you don't need to set up a developer environment. And it's also something along with the verifying issues, which is typically overlooked. You can proofread the README and say, oh, this section is not applicable anymore because we have updated away from this, or there are a lot of typos in here. People will like when you improve the documentation as well, because it not only helps new users, but it also might help new contributors. Going into the high effort contributions, the first one is obvious, right? Just code. You found something you think you will enjoy, you want to write your first few lines of functions, just code and open a PR and let people give you feedback. That is the most frequent contribution for obvious reasons. And sometimes people will be even amazed at what you do. In this case, I found a script that I have always wanted to develop, but never stopped to do so, and it was great. And I was just like, this can be a lot more readable and maintainable if it's more Pythonic. So let me make it more Pythonic. And I opened this pull request, and the guy was just replying like, I was a rookie, Python rookie back when I did this, and I can see how it improves a lot because now I understand the things you're doing. So thanks for this contribution. The second thing is reviewing. It's a bit controversial. Not every person will think the same about this, but you can review open pull requests from other people even though you're not a maintainer. I did this, and if you're confident that you're suggesting improvements, something that maintainers would also say, you're also saving them time. In this case, I suggested something, and the person even tried to assign the review again to me until that person found out that I was not a maintainer. But in the end, it was merged without any additional comments, so I helped the maintainers. Finally, you can translate. All of these apps out there are in some language, most of them in English, and not everyone speaks in English. So you can help people out by making them available in more languages by spreading this software to more people. So some remarks: start baby stepping as soon as you can. If you don't start, you'll never learn to walk. And don't worry if you will fall. Don't start thinking about will I fall or not and get injured in process. You typically will have people watching after you and taking care of you. So thanks for watching. My handle is Tupasquale mostly everywhere. If you want to reach out to me for comments, questions, feel free to do so. And if you want to reach out to me on the Code Newbie post, also feel free. I will see you there. Thank you.